G'day everyone. So today we're going to start looking at Autodesk Fusion 360. As you can see, I've got it up on my screen here. And the current item in my Autodesk Fusion window is my very first lampshade that I designed. Now, we talked about this one in class. You can obviously see that we can see straight through to the light bulb in the middle here, or what is made to be our light bulb in the case of this design. And that overall didn't really work particularly well as a lampshade because we can see straight through it there. It's not really shading the light at all. It just disperses it nicely. That's about all. So looking at this lampshade, and here in Fusion 360, this has all been designed here in Fusion 360 and put together. And we're going to talk about the general layout of Fusion 360 and what we need to start looking at when we start going to design something. So as far as the window goes, we have a number of things up at the very top here. We have what's called the data panel, which is where all our projects get saved. Alright, when we start new projects. I'll just close that again, the little X there. So that's the data panel there, just so to remind you. We have our file menu, which does things like allow us to create new designs or drawings from designs, to 3D print things, capture images of things, those sorts of things. All in that menu there. We've got our save button, of course, and undo and redo, which are most bits of software. On the top right, we have a drop-down menu for our Autodesk account, which you guys will make in class. It gives us a little thing about job status as well. So if we've done something like it's been updated, or we've used the cloud to do a particular task for us, that's where it's going to tell us about that as well. So up the top here, when we first go into it, we have our main toolbar here, toolbar ribbon with lots of different options on it, with drop-down menus of all sorts of different options to do different things. And we're not going to use too many of these different options, but we will use some of them. On the left here, we can change our workspace. We'll predominantly be working in model, and then later on possibly render. But that's later on down the track. At the moment, we're just going to be working in model, which is the current workspace you can see on the screen now. To the left of the screen here, we have the browser. Within the browser, we have the total item that we're looking at here, as a menu there. And then within that, we have lots of different particular sections. So we have joints between things. You can see here there's a number of different joints that are shown. We have the different bodies within our object, and right now the only body that's really showing up there is that, what would be the light globe, I suppose, in the middle there. We have different sketches available to us, so there's a number of different sketches within this particular design. They've all been drawn to create that lampshade there. We have, under that, a number of different components. So we have the center ring there, which you can see changes color as I hover over it, which is in the very middle of the lamp. We have what I like to call the attachment fin, which attaches the top and bottom rings and the fins all together. We have the top ring of the lamp, the fins, which are all those parts around the outside, and the bottom ring itself as well. So that we have different components here in the browser. If I open up any particular component, we can see that we've got different things about that component. So it shows me what body is within that component, etc. Alright, so that's the browser on the left there, and this changes a little bit as you use it. So sometimes things might be sketches and you might make them solid and therefore they become bodies. If we make a body into a component, we then get a different little menu item for it here. Down the bottom of the screen here we have what's called our timeline, and in our timeline we can cycle through everything that happens. So if I press play now, we can watch all the different processes that I went through to create this lampshade. You can see all those pieces coming together. Lots of different tasks to do that. And we'll just get back to the end there. So there we go. So that's the lampshade in its entirety there. And looking at that timeline, we have different things that happen. So we have different sketches in here of the different parts that have been created as the lampshade has been modelled. And different other steps like extrusion steps, which are what allows us to take a 2D sketch of something into a 3D item. We have different things like moving components into joints. We have the actual joint itself. We have we have patterns that we're using as well, and they happen on and off throughout. There's even a different one here, which is a revolve tool. So there's lots of different things that happen as we go to make a particular object, and we'll learn about that. We're going to start drawing this particular lampshade in the next video, and we'll start with something like the center ring and then work out from there. Up on the top right of the screen here, we have what's called the Navi Cube, alright, which allows us to look at different views of the object. So for example, we can look at things top down, front on, from different sides. Obviously my front and side views look much the same. And we can also look at it from corners. And this is all in an isometric view setup. Alright, so isometric being the type of drawing we've already talked about, so this uses isometric views. Down the bottom here we have a few more view options, things like zooming, panning, which allows us to move things around, orbiting, so we can move it into any angle we could possibly want, and things like that. Also down here we can look at specific things, so we can pick specific objects to look at on our item. It's back in the middle of the screen for us. We click the home button, there we go. And we have different display settings as well, so different visual styles, how it looks. We can pick the environment that it's in, pick our perspective. Right, as I said, right now it's orthographic or isometric view. We can put it into perspective view, which changes it slightly, although you can't really tell very much on a round object, but it does. Change it back from to orthographic. There we go. You can see that it changed the angle on those sides there a little bit. We can have different grids in if we want to, so we've got things like the layout grids and so on, and we'll see those as we start to draw different components. So that gives you a basic idea of what's in Fusion 360. As we start drawing different parts, obviously I'll talk a lot more about those different things, different parts of these different menus up here, and mostly we're going to start in the sketch menu when we start with that first component in the middle there. So I hope that's been helpful for you, and you've learned a little bit about Fusion 360. Thanks for watching.